Good hello, I'm Colin, welcome to Onionskin, and it's time to make some custom brushes in Toon Boom Harmony. We could use this panel here, the one that's made for making custom brushes with. Yeah, we could do that, of course we could, but this is no doubt. So we need to build our brushes with nodes, like this one. This is the battle damage brush. It hurts people. So first up, I got a blank composite with my display in right node. Just gonna make a fresh drawing layer and put in just a white line. That's set to about 50. A squiggle, a baseline, something to work with, something to build our effects upon so that when we come back and draw anything later, our new brush effect will be applied. I'm going to need 1, 2, and 3 glows. Thread up the first one. Over in layer properties, it's going to be set to a radius of 40. Its color here, this swatch panel, to a dark blue and an intensity of 2. Soft dark blue. We need it to radiate a bit stronger. This second one, you can see it's starting to punch through already. This will be set to 10. Its color to more of a bright cyan. Also its intensity to 2. Finally, this third one a bit different. We'll thread it through first. This one will be set to white. You can see such a different look, such a different effect. This one will have a radius of 7. To help it mesh more nicely with everything else, I'm going to get a matte resize, put that in just above. And the matte resize, it makes things larger or smaller, depending on positive or negative numbers. 10 looks like that, but we want -3. Really quite subtle. -2, sort of get that. So it's just that little bit of a white core punching through in the middle. It really only shows up if the line gets thick enough. So any line that I make, it's now got a neon brush to it. If I do a huge glob of it, you can see the white core starts to show up in the middle. To make this a versatile tool for any layer, replace this drawing layer with a composite. All of these wires go there, and now literally any drawing layer that goes into that composite will be turned into a neon stripe. In fact, it doesn't even matter what color you use. Here's a green one. Here's a red one, because all of its colors are set up with the glow. All that needs to be done now is selecting everything, group it, call it neon brush, and that can be saved to the library for use in any other project in future. That was fun. Let's do another one. The matte resize is really a wonderful tool for making node-based brushes. Here's a stroke, as before. In fact, I'm going to turn it into a mouth. And with the matte resize, I can bolster its size up once again. So if we make that a 5, oh, it's got thicker lines. I mean, that's sort of useful, I suppose. But if we combine it with a matte blur as well, that changes the entire layer to a different color, like this. So what if I make it brown? You know, like beard hair color. Take a copy of the original drawing and thread that on top. So this could work as a bit of a beard hair mustache outline. If we make it a lot thicker, say 15, 18, yeah, there we go. But that is also going to need its own outline. Well, thankfully, we can take a copy of that structure, put in a third thread in underneath this matte blur back to black, and make it a little bit bigger again. And now a pseudo outline is generated. Again, for any line that I draw, that's just going to get put on automatically. Well, in fact, it doesn't quite look enough like a beard, does it? It looks more like lips. The beard would need to be on the outside of even that. Fortunately, you can just take a copy of those two, and we'll stretch them out even further still. So this black outline, that will have its resize put to probably like 50 at this point. And this 1 second from the right will be a more proper beard color, something like that, with its resize set to, let's just try out some numbers here, 25, maybe 35, 43. So there's a bit of a gap for the lip, and then some mustache and beard hair around there. Notice that, of course, this will apply to any stroke that is drawn on. but also check out how it combines automatically if lines are interconnected together. So this system of brushes that can automatically combine and work with one another. Oh, think of the possibilities. Here it is on practice on a character. This is the same mustache brush that was set up from before, only the final black outline is being sent out of a group to a different location. What is that location? Well, it's a cutter that goes through the main beard composite. It means the outline can be masked away by the rest of the main beard. There's a little bit of complexity to this character, but the main point I want to drive home here is now I have a lot of simplicity when it comes to drawing new mouths. For whatever mouth states I create, it would be a bit of a pain to have to trace around this lip and this mustache several times to make sure that the curve is perfect for all the mouth shapes that I draw. Not anymore. All I have to do is draw the mouth itself, and the mustache will be automatically generated and seamlessly connected into the beard as well. Let's do another one, starting with the drawing layer once again. I'm going to put the composite in at the beginning this time so we can switch it out with other stuff. This one's going to be a bit more complicated, so just bear with me as we bring in some of the things we learned from the Mr. Radiant, the turbulent noise video. Be sure to check that out if you haven't. I'm going to leave this blue line in render mode so we can see it evolve as it gets built. So watch this, this will be pretty cool. Get the turbulent noise node, plug that in, turns everything gray. The settings for this are fairly specific. The top is left as a purlin, second one however changed to a threshold. The frequency will be changed from a locked to a separate, so we can change the X value to 30 and the Y to 8. The threshold fractal type is a much more heavily contrasted version. See, compared to some of the other ones, we get a nice heavy dark to light ratio. The other settings, they can be left as is. I want another composite to thread through here. We're going to be doing quite a bit of glow and effects work, and then it's going to get combined to go through some other cutters and masking systems later on. The first step is to get a grayscale, once again set to matte output, so the dark areas will be invisible and the light areas will be visible. Going to be getting 3 glows as well, sort of like the laser brush, but there's going to be some differences this time. The first, thread the 3 up. The first is going to be a bit of a darker orange color like this, with a glow radius set to 40 and an intensity of 3. The second one will have a radius of 5, an intensity of 2, and it's going to be more of a bright yellow color in the middle. Look at that. Finally, the last one is going to be the white hot core. So make that completely white. And it's just going to have a radius of 1, very subtle. An intensity a little bit less than 1, 0.8. So you can see there's starting to be a bit of a flame texture there. Now we're going to be masking it into our stroke in a particular way, which is why it's all connected into a composite first to combine the elements. So let's do that. Let's get a cutter and put that through our main glow system and use our stroke to cut away from that system. Double click on the little mask symbol to invert that, so now only the fire is seen through the middle of the brush itself. To make it look like the flame is radiating off of the line itself, we're going to get a blur directional. This will adjust the shape of our mask by putting it through the dotted line, changing its radius to 40. So you can see it throws the fire out to the side. It's got a pretty solid cutoff though, doesn't it? So if we change the fall off rate from 0 to 1, 1 is 100% in this case. You can see it's got a very soft gradual fade off now, and change its angle to 270. This rotates it 3/4 of the way around, so the blur points straight up. It's quite faint though, as you may have noticed. So I'm gonna get one more glow, put it underneath the entire thing. That's gonna be using source color, so we don't have to set anything directly. It's just gonna use whatever appears and change it to an intensity of 3. So it's, big burning hot now. So the last thing, I want the brush stroke itself to reflect the shape of the flames coming off of it rather than being a solid line. Be good to have it bend as well. So we want it to refract. There is a node called refract. This is sort of like a ripple system. It takes dark and light values and then warps shapes depending on them, which is exactly what our turbulent noise combined with the grayscale does. So if the refract goes right through the middle there and is masked by the grayscale turbulent noise, you'll see now the hot bits seem to be punctuating down and outside. We can invert the mask as well to see what that does. seems to be an even more intense effect there. If you're following along, you may have noticed that this is a very intense effect. It takes several seconds, for my machine at least, to render each frame of this footage. So I'm going to quickly show you some resource management tricks. First is to get a visibility node. This allows certain combinations to only show up under certain conditions. And because the turbulent noise with a stroke is completely invisible, I'm going to get a copy of our stroke, send it through the visibility down to the composite, and it's going to be set to only display in OpenGL view and not in soft render. So this will disappear when we go into render view and only show our flaming version. For animating the flames, I want to be able to see that taking place as well without having to wait 30 seconds for it to load each frame. If things are running slowly, even in this view when nothing is showing up, because it's still happening in the background, a second visibility set to only showing up in soft render and not OpenGL view may be appropriate for this primary system. For animating the turbulent noise on its own without having a look at, which makes it super intense, I like to take a secondary display, pop that into the noise, just call that working. So when I need to, I can pop over to the working display, and that in render view will show what I need to see very quickly and easily. In this case, I'm going to animate the fire texture. I press the plus to open its parameters, make sure this button second from the left is open as well, and I'm going to keyframe between frame 0 and frame 60 and adjust its evolution parameter up to about 5. So it's pretty slow. There we go, so you see it's got this little bit of oscillation to it. Secondly, I'm going to put it inside a peg, and this is going to animate between the same two keyframes, and it's just going to move up a bit as fire tends to rise. There we go. So I get a pretty good educated guess on what that's going to look like when it goes through the entire system by looking at main. And this is how it turned out, flaming away on just this one little stroke here. I wanted to make something a little bit more complex. I got a bit carried away and accidentally animated a Hellgate, which is a striking and interesting trend, considering my other example was this injuring a person brush. At this point, I'd understand if you're getting a bit worried from me, but everything's fine. I've just been playing a lot of Doom. So keep an eye out, subscribe on that for at least 2 videos on exploiting these custom brushes a bit further, as I break down these 2 examples. As always, working files are available for the patrons, and these 2 upcoming examples, I'm putting them out early, because they're only made, obviously. So anyone on the Patreon can feel free to jump into any of these working files and have a dig around to see how they all work. Thank you for joining me for another episode of No Doubt. I hope I've inspired some weird and wonderful builds. Good luck.